Hello, puppies and kittens. Welcome to another episode of Blasphemers Bible. You know, the last few days, I got a notice from some activist group that I should come down to Austin to testify to the Texas State Board of Education again, which I wanted to do, but I didn't bother looking at the list of things because my daughter was moving out of the state, so it's going to be the last time I see her and the grandbabies and all that. I had arrangements that I had to fulfill, so I couldn't be in Austin on the testimony days, and I'm really upset about it. Not that it would have changed anything, because I know how these assholes were determined to be. I've given testimony against putting up the Ten Commandments in public schools. James Tallarico was on the panel when I gave that testimony. He spoke in agreement. He's completely on my side with what I had to say there, but it didn't matter. They came back and forced later. They forced the Ten Commandments into the classrooms anyway. Well, now, and it wouldn't have mattered if I was there or not, but they've made it so that the kids are going to be required. Texas public school kids will now be required to read Bible stories. And and they're all going to be
some suggestions.
Right. How about the end of Judges?
There's some great parables. There's some great parables in Matthew. I think every Texas school child should learn to quote the words of Jesus when he said, "Depart from me, you who are cursed, into the everlasting fire reserved for the devil and his angels. For I was hungry, and you did not feed me. I was thirsty, and you did not give me to drink. I was naked, and you did not clothe me. I was a stranger, and you did not invite me in. I was sick and in prison, and you did not visit me." And they will say to him, "Lord, when did we see you hungry or thirsty or naked and in need and not help you?" And he will say, "Inasmuch as you did not to the least of these, you did not to me."
Exactly. So that's going to be one of the featured things in a new series that I'm going to be doing. The first one I'm going to be doing probably tomorrow. We're going to be doing Bible lessons for Texas public school students. And since they were making a big deal about the Ten Commandments, the first one I'm going to talk about is the Ten Commandments. It's specifically, where you the Ten Commandments in Exodus 34 and how they compare to Exodus 20 with regard to when your parents can kill you.
Also,
either as a sacrifice or because you dishonored them.
In fairness, I think Texas parents would actually really appreciate that, because they like to know that they could kill their kids at any time.
I remember an old Bill Cosby skit. Bill Cosby skit said, "I brought you into this world. I'll take you out."
I think it's very much like if you're raised super religious, you are essentially, at least in like a very conservative like Christian sect, then you're raised to believe that fear is love. Like, it's massively fucked up. Although I think you were quoting, what was that, Matthew 28? But no, it wasn't 28, 25. I forget which chapter. But I know which one you're talking about. The thing is, there has been debate about who is the least of us, because it's just the superlative form of these little ones, which is always used to talk about the disciples. So it's unclear as to whether or not that's supposed to be like actually caring for the poor or just other Christians. So there is debate.
Yeah.
I like your interpretation, but I just don't know if it's the correct.
I'm fairly certain that a lot of those immigrants are also Christian. Not all of them, but many of them. Number one. Number two, he's pretty clearly calling damnation down. And I think if you don't want to be damned, it would be wiser to err on the side of caution if you believe this shit and just not be a dick all around. That does seem to be the sensible answer. And number three, I think that it's important to remind children of these, because children are not stupid enough to require 75 additional explanations as to why the thing doesn't say what it obviously says. And it will plant seeds of doubt, because the greatest enemies of evangelical Christianity are those of us who were fucking raised in this shit. You made me. I'm your problem now.
I just wanted to alert you guys that I'm going to be doing this series, because it is going to be a series. I'm a little pissed off that they want to do Bible stories. Yeah, let's full on. Let's do Bible stories.
Yeah.
And I've got several in mind, but I might keep this series up for a little bit, because I think it might be successful.
It does have fun. I remember I was covering I made a video talking about the whole 10 Commandments in public schools, and I went through, I don't know if you watched the video, Arn, if you didn't, but I went through the bill that would introduce it, and then went through possible emendations to the bill, which were rejected. Like, okay, well, we could have the 10 Commandments, but let's also put up the noble truths of Buddhism, or the eightfold path, or the 5 pillars of Islam, and all those didn't pass. I shocked me. I wondered why they didn't pass.
Yeah, and they wrote in a special proviso to keep the Satanic Temple out of it. The Texas legislatures wrote that it could only be historic traditional. So anything older than 2013 or anything older than 1966.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, they're already turning on the Mormons, who they were happy to use for their numbers, for their fascist policies, disempowering women.
Is Glenn Beck not sufficiently fascist anymore?
Well, no, you see, he's not the right flavor of Christian, and Christians have always done this. They've always whipped up hate against outsiders to the faith so that they can get their little clutch on power. And the first people they turn on are people of not quite the correct belief. And honestly, this isn't exclusive to Christianity. I remember, hell, back in the days when Twitter was actually what it was, reading a Muslim saying, I hate all the non-believers, but none as much as Sunni Muslims, because they were Shia, or maybe it was the other way around. Doesn't matter. The important thing was that all people were wrong for not believing in Allah the way they did, but especially those who believed slightly differently.
Yeah. So I was impressed that Glenn Beck was speaking at an evangelical conference. Why the fuck is a Mormon in an evangelical conference? But when he started citing prophecies, and Tomer, maybe we'll remember this, but when Glenn Beck started citing prophecies from the Book of Mormon, and the evangelicals in the audience are all excited about it. Oh, prophecy! Wrong fucking book.
These are people who get their prophecies from a PTSD fireman.
Yeah, convicted fraud made up all of this shit, and all of these people in the audience are just eating it up, and it's Mormonism, and these evangelicals have no idea that that's what he's talking about, because they don't read their own book. They certainly don't know about other people's books. So when he's talking about the book of which I don't remember which subheading it was out of the Book of Mormon, but I'm sure the evangelicals thought that it came from the Bible.
They would.
Yeah.
No, they don't read the Bible, remember?
Indeed, they do not. But Lawrence, if you have any suggestions, the same with Lilith, if you have any suggestions for the series that I'm going to be doing, I'm going to have fun with this one.
So many, yeah.
Yeah.
You give me any topic and any perspective you want on that topic, I will provide you 3 stories options. Okay?
Okay. Well, we are talking about Bible lessons. We're going to be talking about not just reading the Bible, but on occasion I'm going to have to compare things, like what it says in Exodus 34 with what it says in Exodus 20, and Ezekiel's comments on that, and so forth, and then what it says in relation to that from Leviticus, and so on. Anyway, today we're doing Psalm 130.
Yes.
And should I jump into it?
Yes. But first, I would like to point out that I haven't I haven't drank on stream in quite a while. So yesterday I had a sushi event with my friends, and I bought this sake. Nigori sake is one of my favorites. So yeah, I'm going to.
Nice.
Okay. Well, enjoy that. And I will jump into it. So, A Song of Ascents. Out of the depths. God damn it, dog. Shut the fuck up. People exist outside. Shut up.
Well,
Somebody's knocking at my door. Can you believe this? Lawrence, would you take it over?
Yes, I can do that.
Thank you.
All right. So Psalm 130, a song of ascents. Out of the depths I cry to you, O Lord. Lord, hear my voice. Arn did not mute himself. Lord, hear my voice. Let your ears be attentive to the voice of my supplications. If you, O Lord, should mark iniquities, Lord, who could stand? But there is forgiveness with you, so that you may be revered. I wait for the Lord. My soul waits, and in his word I hope. My soul waits for the Lord, more than those who watch for the morning, more than those who watch for the morning. O Israel, hope in the Lord. For with the Lord there is steadfast love, and with him is great power to redeem. It is he who will redeem Israel from all iniquities. So, obviously it has this, it's not in quite court language like in many other Psalms, but him being, like, if he presses the charges, you're fucked. And if he's defending you, you're good, because of the redemption there. But it's certainly taking over that language. But there is, of course, the curious addition of the duplication in verse 6, more than those who watch for the morning. I don't know if are they actually exactly the same in Hebrew? I don't know.
Almost. I mean, the Hebrew is mishomrim laboker shomrim laboker. And it does sound like a repetition, but I think that the insinuation is, I mean, JPS translates to, I am more eager for the Lord than watchman for the morning, watchman for the morning. And the Hospital and Zenker commentary has
sung, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Like it's certain. But the thing is, we don't see this thing happen a lot in the Psalms. We don't see like the chorus, for example. In modern songs, you can repeat a word or a phrase multiple times, and to us it sounds normal. But the thing is, in theirs, they would repeat it like, once a stanza or something like that, right? Maybe it's happened before, but I just didn't notice.
So apparently,
this is uncommon.
Sorry. Apparently, Peshitta and Jerome, I mean Vulgate, took as an accusative of duration of time, while Septuagint rendered it in terms of the preceding phrase. And it also Alanos notes that Septuagint, Peshitta, and Vulgate imply not mi ashmoret haboker, from the watches of the morning, despite BHK and BHS, but mishimurim laboker, with the same sense. Septuagint's edition of until night is probably an exegetical edition. And is there something from Zenger? Hospital and Zenger?
No idea.
Oh god, the commentary on Psalms 130 is long. Okay.
So the repetition is not abnormal as such, but the way in which it's done here, the small quippy repetition, is, although it could be indicative of a stylistic era. I mean, there have been eras in music where there have been more complex lyrical norms, and eras where you just repeat, I kissed a girl and I liked it 700 times until even the lesbians are like, fuck, this is annoying. So,
Yeah, I mean, they could be repeating without writing it down. And here, what's different is that it's written down.
Junior scribe.
Maybe
he has to include everything, though.
Maybe this guy forgot that Selah was a thing, and he was like, what do I put here? And then
he forgot Selah.
I know, he forgot Selah. Yeah, that surely that's what happened here.
Where is it?
I've got some comments here. So Ferdhausen says they can't understand the First Amendment clearly. When it comes to the second, it's shall not infringe.
Yeah. No. Also, Ferdhausen, I did get your book, the book that you sent as well. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
And let's see, then Shut Up Matt says, I learned recently that the KJV Leviticus translates as ferrets, domesticated polecats, actually meant geckos/lizards. Can you confirm?
Well, the thing is
about
what
the list of animals,
exactly?
then like half of them we don't actually know what they should be.
Right,
So,
yeah.
like,
and the thing, I mean, there's way bigger issues with the KJV. I did make a video about how bad the KJV was, but I think I should do it again.
Yes.
I did pick up a couple more books about the history of the KJV specifically, and the KJV only controversy. So, because there are Christians who are like, this is the one perfect translation.
There have always been people unnaturally attached to it, but I want to know if we can confirm whether the specific conspiracy theory about the Jesuits rewriting the Bible can be traced to Jack Chick and that crazy guy he sided with in
the Chick Trek guy.
Yeah.
Huh. Okay.
Okay, you and I should have a conversation about that, because there's a lot behind that genuinely has to do with a specific conspiracy theory that he fell into the clutches of a compulsive liar who kept making up more and more ridiculous reasons why he wasn't lying, and all his friends saying this guy's full of shit were, corrupted and whatnot, and it turned into evil Catholic Church mwahaha conspiracy crazy. Like, and I'm not like yay Catholics, but like this was ridiculous.
So we got another comment from Bruno Zeigertz, 6379, who offers $10 Californian, and says they're going to tell children Bible stories. If they're going to tell children Bible stories, they should tell the one about Lot and his daughters.
Yeah, I was definitely thinking about like what should Aaron talk about. One of the ones that I thought of was the one at the end of Judges, the start of the Benjaminite War, where he cuts up the body and sends the pieces all throughout Israel. That's a fun one.
That's one of the few that it doesn't even exist in the children's versions. That like, because there's no way to sanitize it.
Yeah,
they can take the sex out of a lot of things, but not that.
Yeah.
But I mean,
also
the stories that they choose to tell to children are already crazy. Like one of the most popular ones is the flood.
Yeah,
sure. True. No, but the thing is, do you think that they would let me teach some of these Bible stories? I would love to do a Bible
the
study.
Important
you'll be a bad influence on the kids.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, yeah, but you don't tell them that. You tell them that you have a degree in the languages and you've studied and you're so, and then you tell children the things that'll make them actually think. And then they all come home and rebel against their parents' authoritarian bullshit, and then their parents become estranged and die alone, as they should.
I'm thinking maybe we should do guest hosts for a little bit. When I do this series, I can have Lawrence come in and speak on one. Yeah, and get a couple other Bible scholars if they have a favorite that they want to talk about one time. Anyway,
there's a lot of fun stuff.
Yeah, and we will talk about that, because this is I'm thinking this is going to be a series. All right, so Humania 2012 says, hello, Aaron. I've been watching for a few years now, since 2012, I would bet. And I escaped the Jehovah's Witness religion, and now I face being shunned by my entire family and treated as if I was dead. I feel very sorry for you. Well, I didn't come from that sort of a situation. Most of my family and I have not been on speaking terms for decades. So I feel you. So my unfinished journey says, all hail Aaron and panel, and down with crazy conspiracy theories. They're all in on it. Okay.
Yeah, someday, actually, if you want to get into the Jack Chick that conspiracy, how that was born. It's fucking hilarious. And you can actually see the story on his website. He wrote a comic about the history of this man who told him all the truth. And anyone who has ever had an interaction with a compulsive liar can go, oh yeah, no, this is that. I know that. So it's a fun time. Absolutely nuts. Anyway, on with the show.
And is there any commentary on this?
Yes, there is. So Gerstenberger writes that considering the changed social and ecclesiastical organization during the exile, we may say that Psalms 130 is an individual and communal complaint song, expressing the anxiety of later times to be heard and pardoned by Yahweh. As the great prayers of communal confession demonstrate in Nehemiah 9, Ezra 9, Daniel 9, and Psalm 78 and 106, there was rampant in those days a common feeling of guilt besetting individuals in their communities. Allen notes that Dahoud dated Psalms 130 as pre-exilic and regarded it as spoken by a king in view of terminological parallels with Psalms 86, which he took as royal. Allen notes that usually the psalm is regarded as post-exilic, both because of its comparatively degenerate form and its language, namely keshev, attentive, in verse 2, which reoccurs in 1 Chronicles 6:40 and 7:15, and slicha, forgiveness, in verse 4, also in Nehemiah 9:17, Daniel 9:9. Berlin writes that the psalm is post-exilic, written after the return from exile. But the exile that is implied is likely not the Babylonian exile in a real historical sense, but the concept of the ongoing exile that arose after the restoration, when the ideal conditions that were expected upon the restoration failed to materialize. And Zenger comments, quote, Verses 3 and 4 are so close to the anthropology of the book of Job, compare Job 4:17, 14:4, 15:14, and 25:4-6, to the penitential prayers in 1 Kings 8:46-53, Ezra 9:9-15, Nehemiah 9:6-37, and to the priestly atonement forgiveness theology in the book of Leviticus, that it seems likely that the original version of the psalm was created only in the late post-exilic period, probably in a wisdom priestly milieu. The metaphorics of the original version of the psalm are impregnated with judicial themes. The petitioner appeals to Yahweh for his judgment. But at the same time, the judicial model of procedure is metaphorically alienated to the extent that the psalm presents Yahweh as a judge who acquits out of mercy and does not punish crimes, but rather forgives, because forgiveness is constitutive of his judicial office. The redactional expansion, verses 7 and 8, in contrast, uses a different metaphorics in its redemption idea, quote-unquote. This shift of metaphors is a further argument for our redaction critical thesis regarding verses 7 and 8.
We got a comment from My Unfinished Sock, says, don't give F1 spoilers. Like and share the stream instead. F1? What did I mean? What did I miss here?
That is the only real sport on Formula One.
Gotcha, it's racing.
Oh, they just drive in a circle, so that's
no. That's the American thing. What is it? NASCAR. That's driving in circles.
Yeah.
This one is driving in ovals. We
actually have left turns.
F5.
We have left turns in F1.
But only left turns?
No, left and right.
Okay.
Magic.
Hold on, I gotta deal with my cat. He wants something.
He wants you.
He wants snuggles. Pick him up and love him.
I think Aaron can read 131.
Oh my gosh, there's so much here, though. Oh Lord, my heart is not lifted up. My eyes are not raised too high. I do not occupy myself with things too great and too marvelous for me. But I have calmed and quieted my soul, like a weaned child with its mother. My soul is like the weaned child that is with me. O Israel, hope in the Lord from this time on and forevermore.
So actually,
This is actually a very interesting psalm. I've seen some commentaries which call it a woman's psalm, mainly because of verse 2 here. And I think Simone, when we talked in Discord, she said that this is a very interesting psalm. Yeah, she liked that. She said she liked Psalms 131, which is very short, but the Hebrew of verse 2 is weird.
Yeah, it's odd because I know that there was at one point, because obviously early Hebrew religion and it was very patriarchal in the worst way. But after a lot of disappointments, there was that switch to, I guess, what you might call a more feminine aspect, bringing in female heroes, Esther, Ruth, and the one who's not in canon, Judith?
Yes, Judith.
But taking the attitude of a more feminine way of approach, a little more subtlety, a little more working with what's actually happening as opposed to ideals, still hoping for the perfect ideal someday that never comes, but practically speaking, a little more realistic. So I don't, that's the thing, is when it was written, the feminine aspect could be more or less of a good or bad thing.
Yeah, I mean, from the commentaries that I've read, like, many people praise this psalm because of its simplicity, and because I think Alan notes that Croft called it one of the most beautiful psalms. Yeah, one of the most beautiful psalms in the Psalter because it has an enigmatic quality about it, due in part to its brevity. And I think
these guys need higher standards for psalms.
So, yeah, Gerstenberger notes that Quell, Miller et al. Have ventured the hypothesis that our psalm was composed by a woman, and Bale basically agrees. The conducive line, of course, is verse 2 CD. One may argue that the metaphor of a child seeking shelter with his or her mother betrays female origin. By using this metaphor, God may become a female deity. This observation may undergird said argumentation. Miller argues on the basis of social roles in a patriarchal society, which taught, quote, submission and humility, end quote, to females, in particular as far as official religious matters were concerned, theology being a male task. On the other hand, there is no firm proof of... Yes.
No, I'm just thinking about how many times they tried that on me in my life. How'd that work out for you?
Yeah, but he also notes that there is no firm proof of female authorship possible, authorship in itself being too modern a concept when applied to psalm literature. Also, any male person observing the role of mothers in protecting their children might use the image. Yeah.
Yes, how dare men associate with anything so soft as comforting a crying child? Clearly, God is too much of an alpha dude, bro, for that.
Give you something
he
to
is
cry
kind
about.
of the king of the incels. Yeah, he is kind of the king of the incels. Burned all his wife's shit. I'm not, yeah. Not a fan.
Yeah, let's see something. Okay, so, Psalms 131 is generally taken as an individual psalm of thanksgiving, with deClaissé-Walford noting that it is much narrowly defined as a hymn of trust. Ella notes that Michel regarded verses 1 and 2 as a spiritualized form of a confessional list related to the entrance liturgy of Psalms 15 and 24. Krauss writes that Psalms 131 is a prayer song of an individual and is characterized by an expression of trust. He writes that we could understand verse 1 as a declaration of loyalty of a tzaddik, righteous man, yet the tzaddik thinks of himself as an ani, poor. As the poor, the righteous makes no claims, do not help themselves, and place their entire life under the protection and support of Yahweh. Scholars have highly praised Psalms 131. Allen notes that Croft has called it, quote, one of the most beautiful psalms in the Psalter, end quote, and has an enigmatic quality due in part to its brevity. Zenger notes that Gunkel termed Psalms 131, quote, a little sigh, a few simple sentences, but of such depth and authenticity that they are more than a great artistic poem, end quote. Kittel wrote that the psalm is, quote, a pearl in the Psalter, a touching little poem that in a few simple words expresses the greatest, that which is higher than all reason, and says more than many words. End quote. Gerstenberger writes that the psalm is, quote, a jewel of simplicity, end quote. He writes that the reason for this estimation is obvious. Our psalm in its first 4 lines talks exclusively about personal attitudes using strictly domestic imagery. Only line 5 looks beyond this private realm toward the community of Israel. Zenger also notes that the psalm has received special attention because on the one hand it has been interpreted as a woman's psalm and so has provoked a discussion about what image of woman underlines the psalm. On the other hand, this has been disputed, sometimes with ironic polemics. He writes that ultimately this psalm also plays an important role in addressing the question of feminine or motherly features in the biblical image of God. Berlin, however, writes that there is no compelling reason to take this psalm as specifically a woman's prayer, although women may have recited it as well as men.
We're talking about 131, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I definitely don't get the the conclusion that it was a woman's psalm, although I can see why patriarchal societies would want to view it that way. It to me, it reminded me a lot of the part in Isaiah where he uses probably an older poem to basically call the king of Babylon he's too big for his britches. Like he tried to essentially be God, but then he fell. So this kind of carries the same connotation of like I'm not too haughty, right? I don't think that highly of myself. I don't shoot for the stars, right? The thing is, in a lot of cultures, if you're doing something like that, it could potentially be viewed as violence too. Like specifically the Greeks, when they would use the word hubris, it meant violence because let's say some official is walking down the street or something and you don't thank him or get on one knee or some shit like that.
I do.
Okay, well that's for later.
Yes. Your kinks are not part of the Hebrew canon. Sorry, sweetie.
Yeah, the thing is, if you don't do something like that, if you don't show that you are submissive in some way to them, they viewed that as a slight, as a personal attack. So it fell under violence. So they
sound like bitches.
Yeah, definitely. This psalm kind of reminded me of that idea. Like he's purposefully making himself lower as to not be thought of as someone who is an egomaniac or something like that.
Yeah, it's pretty problematic for a number of reasons, but in Asia, there has been a long tradition, especially in older cultures, of sort of stylistic humility. It's very much a social game, especially in the court, where you're, oh, I am just nothing before you. Oh, blah, blah, blah. Where you say kind of the opposite to the king to drop the hint of the thing you want him to think about, but in a very, flattering way. Partly, no doubt, left over from when kings could have you boiled in oil because they were annoyed. But also, it's rude to contradict that kind of attitude, which I admittedly think is bullshit. But it does have some natural consequences to culture and the way people interact, especially with so-called authority figures. But yeah, it does mean that Haman was right to be pissed off at Mordecai. Maybe not right to genocide over it, but pissed off. He had a right to be. I don't make the rules.
Are we moving on then to 131? Unless
someone we got to finish this book.
132.
132, my bad.
Yes.
Yeah. So I think.
Yes. 132. A Song of Ascents. Another one. Shocking, I know. Oh, Lord. Remember David, and all the hardships he endured. He swore an oath to the Lord and made a vow to the mighty one of Jacob. I will not enter my house or go to my bed. I will allow no sleep to my eyes, no slumber to my eyelids, till I find a place for the Lord, a dwelling for the mighty one of Jacob. We heard it in Ephrathah. We came upon it in the fields of Jaar. Let us go to his dwelling place. Let us worship at his footstool. Arise, O Lord, and come to your resting place, you and the ark of your might. May your priests be clothed with righteousness, and apparently nothing else. May your saints sing for joy, for the sake of David, your servant. Do not reject your anointed one. The Lord swore an oath to David, a sure oath that he will not revoke. One of your own descendants I will place on the throne, and if your sons keep my covenant and my statutes I teach them, then their sons will sit on your throne forever and ever. For the Lord has chosen Zion. He has desired it for his dwelling. This is my resting place forever and ever. Here I will sit enthroned, for I have desired it. I will bless her with abundant provisions. Her poor I will satisfy with food or missiles, whatever. And I will clothe her priests with salvation, and her saints will ever sing for joy. Here I will make a horn grow for David and set up a lamp for my anointed one. I will clothe his enemies with shame, but the crown on his head will be resplendent. It's giving court propaganda.
Oh yeah,
I mean,
definitely.
I mean, some commentators took it to be even pre-exilic. I think Terrian took it as pre-exilic as well. Like, this whole like Davidistic, royalistic, writing.
Yeah.
Though there is still
and typing up the Davidic line specifically.
Yes,
I definitely view this as post-exilic because, like, if we take a look at 2 Samuel 7, I don't remember it being conditional that that David's line will sit on the throne of Israel forever. But in this one, it very much is conditional. If your sons keep my covenant,
yes, I think Sanger notes that as well. It is true. He writes that it is true that verses 11 through 12 cite the promise to Nathan, but this deviates here from 2 Samuel 7 in being conditioned, and in addition, it is impregnated with priestly language and theology. That is, it is post-Deuteronomistic.
Yeah, definitely. The thing is, like, let's take a look at some of the stuff. So we're clearly talking about Jerusalem, right? But
obviously
there are things that point to, like, they're clearly taking up past a lot of past nomenclature for this. But like when it says in verse 7, let us worship at his footstool, and in verse 8, like, go to your resting place, you and the ark of your might. And then in verse 14 as well, this is my resting place forever. Here I will reside, for I have desired it. And I think, Lilith, the translation you're using used enthroned.
Yes.
So, so instead of reside, what does the Hebrew say for that? It might say reside.
Which verse?
Verse 14.
14.
Like, does it say anything about a throne or a seat?
The one where God is speaking. This is my resting place forever and ever, yada yada.
No, it reads menuchati, which literally means resting place.
Gotcha.
My resting place. Yes.
Okay. So the thing is, in this, I mean, we do also have the throne imagery in verse 11, but that was specifically about David. To me, this definitely looks like it's from a time afterwards because it's a condition. And yes. The thing is, the language of the footstool and the ark, again, I'm just going to point out statue of Yahweh vibes, but the ark being a very specific thing afterwards is...
But you can have the vibes left over long after the idea is no longer what it was.
No, I understand that.
And this is totally, they're trying to tie in the ancient stories. Like, this is all totally legitimate, and this is what's leading us to where we are now, and you should do the thing that we said.
Well, the thing is, I think that the original forms of the narrative, from wherever it stems from, wouldn't have been so shy about a statue, but the fact that they say you and your ark, because remember in the aniconic period where they start hating imagery because they think that imagery was the thing that caused them to be exiled, that's where they started just talking about the footstool itself, the ark, where instead of it being an actual statue, it's just part of a statue where he's kind of theologically, in theory, meant to sit. So like on this throne.
It is interesting to see Alan actually arguing that it is pre-exilic.
Right.
He writes that Gunkel asserted rightly that it presupposes the Davidic monarchy as a contemporary institution, and there is no hint that Jerusalem has suffered the exile. And he writes that accordingly, it is difficult to regard the psalm as post-exilic with French scholars such as Jacquet and Auwers. The two relevant areas of discussion are the amount of archaic language used in the psalm and the presence or absence of Deuteronomistic terminology and ideology, etc., etc. It has a long thing here, but I also tend to go to post-exilic. I think Gerstenberger and Zenger, Gerstenberger's Berlin and Zenger made the point clearly.
Yeah, the thing is, even the more messianic stuff, right, where you're saying like there's horns gonna rise up out of David, that was just as popular later. Like that's how we get a whole bunch of people in like the first century claiming to be prophets, or like that's how it happens, because it doesn't actually
or the Messiah.
Yeah,
you had so many Jesuses running around in the desert going, I'm the Messiah, look, and wearing horns and robes and weird shit.
Yeah, a few people.
Yeah, 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. It's cults, a desert.
There was the Egyptian. There was Theudas, a couple of them. Josephus records a lot of
funny. Yeah, he does. There's like half a dozen of them, and like at least a lot of them took the term Jesus, whether or not it was their natural name, because and Savior and yada yada yada. And so
but they also took like they were also calling themselves like the new Moses and stuff like that. So. It's
absolutely.
Very much.
Absolutely.
This messianic stuff is not determinate of pre-exilic stuff.
I think what makes this likely or post-exilic, is that pre-exilic ideas that it mentions are very much cast in the way that they were used post-exilically. Everyone is pretending that David wrote these psalms, or that these psalms were written in the time of David. Totally. But they're gonna pretend to be from an earlier period, but it's not. Like, honestly, it's kind of like we were talking about the Book of Mormon earlier. Tamer?
Yeah.
The Book of Mormon, where they have those prophecies that are pretending to be like Persian language. I know. But I'm saying, like, it's the same principle. If you're writing propaganda that you want to pretend is from the pre-exilic period. You're going to try and sound important and old.
Yeah.
What are you watching?
No, it's just something that my father sent. It just cracked me up.
It's like the Book of Daniel.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
like
the
really
Book of Daniel too. You talked about the horn, right? So like that was the thing that kind of stemmed a lot of I guess prophecy fulfillment in the first century. So
I really want to read Daniel. It's a fascinating book.
Yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff about Daniel. I picked up, or I should say, someone, one of our viewers, she owns a bookstore, so she sends me just a ton of fucking books. There was a retired pastor that just like, I guess, dropped off a whole shit ton of books, and she sent me a lot of these, and one of them was from 1944, and it was written by a Seventh-day Adventist who was at the time in the 40s was trying to find prophecy fulfillment and stuff like that.
Oh my God.
in Daniel and
We love
Revelation.
that.
So there's it's really interesting to see that kind of stuff.
You know, there are probably some people, because I know with the Jehovah's Witnesses, ex-Jehovah's Witnesses community, there are a lot of people deconstructing a lot of the nonsense that Jehovah's Witnesses have pushed out, that the Watchtower has pushed out, and then disavowed and saying it's all propaganda from, the evil people who fell away, which is weird because, like, yeah, right, we made a magazine and aged it 60 years to fuck with you. Of course, I'm magic. But they have a common root with the Seventh-day Adventists, with the apocalyptic thing and the great disappointment and the 18 whenever
Millerites.
Whenever it was the Millerites. Thank you. Those are the ones I'm thinking of. But like it was a carrying on from that led to 1912, 1914, 19 and the apocalyptic predictions with that. I mean, Seventh Day and J-Dubs obviously split, but they do have that common root of working off that same weird math. Oh, look at the baby.
Here's a prophecy
Oh,
for
look
you.
at baby.
At some point, there shall come a cat.
Are better gods than any we have invented.
Okay, so there is some contention regarding the dating of the psalm. Some commentators view the psalm as pre-exilic, while others view it as post-exilic. For the pre-exilic dating, Terrian writes that Psalms 132 was apparently composed in pre-exilic times, during the reigns of the Davidic dynasty, but its use by pilgrims marching towards Zion confers upon it a theological firmness often absent in other royal psalms. Allen writes that Psalms 132 is a royal and prophetic liturgy that did not necessarily originate later than the period of Josiah. He writes that it harks back to older traditions concerning David's bringing the ark to Jerusalem, concerning the Davidic dynasty, and concerning the importance of Zion. For the post-exilic dating, Berlin notes that the psalm shares ideas and expressions with other post-exilic literature, particularly 2nd Isaiah and Chronicles, the latter even quoting the psalm in 2nd Chronicles 6, 41 and 42. Paraphrasing verses 1, 8, 10 in its version of Solomon's prayer for the dedication of the temple. She writes that the second temple was already standing when the psalm was written. Gerstenberger writes that the pre-exilic royal ideology hardly plays a role in this psalm. He writes that its setting is not really recognized unless we abandon the pre-exilic use and origin of the psalm. He writes that traces of late community organization and of messianic hopes for a restoration of the Davidic monarchy make it necessary to think of early Jewish congregational activities as the matrix for our song. Zenger notes several arguments that Psalms 132 should not be considered pre-exilic, including 1. While verses 11 and 12 cite the promise through Nathan, it deviates from 2 Samuel 7 in being conditioned, and in addition, it is impregnated with priestly language and theology, that is, it is post-Deuteronomistic. 2. The royal concept is clearly futurized in verses 17 and 18, and is related through the motif of sprouting to the post-exilic royal theology as presented. For example, in Isaiah 11:1, Jeremiah 23:5, 33:15, Zechariah 3:8, and 6:12. 3. The image of David and the concept of the temple in Psalms 132 reveal a striking affinity to the theology of Chronicles. The fact that verses 8 through 10 is quoted in 2 Chronicles 6, 41 and 42 underscores this relationship. He concludes, quote, "In view of these findings, it seems probable that the psalm originated in the post-exilic period. That the psalm was created by the redactors of the Pilgrim Psalter, on the other hand, is not very likely. Against such a deviation are linguistic. The psalm does not use the relative pronoun she, but asher. Both the terms the devoted ones or faithful and the priests are absent from the Pilgrim Psalter. Stylistic. While the psalm uses the stylistic method of repetition, it does not reveal the phenomena of anadiplasis that is typical of the Pilgrim Psalter, and above all, conceptual differences. The royal motif is absent from the rest of the Pilgrim Psalter. However, it is understandable why the redaction adopted Psalm 132 with its promises for Zion and placed it precisely in the center of the group of 5 Psalms 130 through 134. End quote. And I also want to note Goldingay's, who writes, quote, "In principle, Gunkel's great achievement in inventing form criticism was to free the study of the Psalms from the futile attempt to focus the understanding of each psalm as a one-of-a-kind response to a unique historical context. Unfortunately, scholarly study nevertheless resisted the invitation to give up the fruitless or over-fruitful attempt to discern when psalms were written, so that an interchange over the date of Psalms 132 at the end of the 20th century showed that the world of scholarship has made no progress over the question whether the psalm belongs to the early monarchy or to the post-exilic period than was the case when Kirkpatrick laid out those possibilities at the beginning of the century."
I know it's trite, but why not both? All you have to do is take a couple of well-known poetic verses that are kind of stuck in the collective consciousness, weave them into a poem you write in the later time, and like, there you go. It's got a foot in both worlds. This is worship music. It is mixed and spun up, and the same shit is done over and over and over and over again. And they're always stealing from before, which is fine. I don't really care, but like, yeah, nothing about that seems unusual if you've actually spent time looking at liturgical music. It is behaving exactly like all liturgical music has always behaved forever. There are trends that are modern-ish, and then there are leftover bits that have been recycled for all of eternity, and these are the components at all times.
Okay, so I'm reading 133?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. A Song of Ascents of David. How good and how pleasant it is that brothers dwell together. It is like fine oil on the head running down onto the beard of Aaron that comes down over the collar of his robe. Like the dew of Hermon that falls upon the mountains of Zion, there the Lord ordained blessing, everlasting life.
So I'm really trying to, okay. I'm trying to figure out the metaphor. So
yeah, that's interesting.
It's good when your family is together. But it's compared to a precious oil running down the beard of Aaron. So my guess is that there's like you take an anointing oil. So you have this kind of, I guess you could call it royal connotations to it, and I don't know. My guess is like you anoint someone on the head, and then they like the drops would come back together on the beard or something. But like, but this time, like now the person has been anointed. They have this special status. So that's about as close as I can fucking get to it.
So anointing Bukaki gives you special status?
Yes, it does.
No, well, please, no, these are brothers. Okay, the Bible is fucked up enough. We don't need that. But the idea of brothers living together in harmony, which is one of the other ways it can be phrased, and I prefer that because it's not always good for brothers to live together. Sometimes there is no harmony and it's hell. But we have to remember the anointing with oil thing, like there is the anointed of the Lord, but to some degree, oil would have been used as an anointing by maybe not as fancy, maybe not as, perfumed, but they lived in the desert and had no shea butter. You use oil or you turn into a walking cactus. Those are your options.
I mean, I get what you're saying. There's although here, I guess there's not really much royal imagery, but there is. You have the collar of his robes, and I guess the one reference to robes because at least signal to the priestly class, right? So, I don't know. Is it the fact that it like disperses, but it's still all technically in the same spot because you have the dew of Hermon, right? Dew of the mountain. It's like everywhere, but it's like right there. So like,
I mean, I don't have a beard, but do you enjoy like moisturizing your beard? Is that like a nice self-care, good feeling kind of vibe?
I mean, I don't. I've never even heard of such a thing. But Aaron, you tell me.
Beard balm, people. Beard balm. You are not Neanderthals. Actually, you're white, so you probably are, but that's not the point. Fuck. Isaac, help the straight men. Help them.
Yeah, please.
I mean, I don't know it because I'm gay, but I know it because like all my family have beards because they're religious, and they definitely have product. Like, I don't know, not everybody uses product, but like there is.
If the beard is sacred, you have to care for it.
You'd think. Yeah, but like there definitely is like beard balm and beard oil and beard wax and different stuff. I'm sure I've seen beard moisturizer as well. Men, they have like the 31-in-1 bottle, and that's what they use for everything.
So maybe an oiled beard was a sign of a man who was cared for because there was a woman in his life to say, "Oil your beard, you bristly fuck."
Hey! I use separate products. It's not all like 31-in-1. I use separate.
Well, I'm glad your deodorant is separate from your spackle. But do you use shampoo conditioner combo?
Yes, of course I do. I also have
dishonor.
Oh no! I have shampoo and conditioner.
Okay.
Separately, I also have like a texturizing powder for my hair, but that's something else.
There you go.
So I would like to note Hostfield's commentary on this because it's specifically on Aaron's beard. He goes in length regarding this, but he notes here that where is it? There we go. So the note about the beard of Aaron, it is frequently argued, disturbs the coherence of the text's thought because it gives the otherwise secular poem a shove in the direction of clericalism. Thus, Bernard Dumb writes, quote, "What does Aaron's beard and Aaron himself have to do with the familiar interaction of brothers and friends? The addition is intended to give this innocent saying a shove toward the spiritual," end quote. Or Hans Schmidt writes, quote, "This explanation of the word beard is obviously a gloss. It is completely inconsistent with the overall meaning of the poem to talk about a particular beard, let alone the beard of a historical figure. A clerical-minded reader has given this secular poem a relationship to worship that, however, in the most literal sense, is hauled in by the hair," quote unquote.
It's so strange, right? Because let's take that section about the beard of Aaron as an addition. It's half of the poem, so it's like, I don't know, it just seems like a lot to gloss.
Oh God.
And I suppose that it is more likely that something like that was added to something secular, but like the thing is, even without it, it's still priestly or royal in some context, right? Because you still have Herman and Zion being referenced, so it's I don't know. I feel it's such a weird thing to add.
Unless you draw the connection not through the sacredness, but through the family element. Remember, and this is one of the reasons Jehovah's Witnesses use to permit their shunning, that Aaron's sons, some of them had sinned and God killed them, and he wasn't allowed to show any signs of mourning, because you stop self-care when you're mourning. You don't put oil on your beard. You don't dress up nice. You sit and mourn and fuck everything else, which honestly is quite appropriate. But Aaron wasn't allowed to do that for his sons, because God had to show that he wasn't opposing God's judgment of killing his sons. So there's always that. So many lovely interpretations.
I mean, I can see like it just about, being just about like togetherness and stuff, but then at the same time, it's like, why Aaron? Like, surely like a reference to someone like Abraham or even Noah would have made more sense.
Well,
there.
Alan, so there are some there are some views regarding the mention of Aaron, and all the commentaries I have opinions on this. Alan writes that to convey his appreciation of this visible fellowship of faith, the psalmist draws two word pictures. The first harks back to the consecration of Aaron as high priest, compare Exodus 29:7 and Leviticus 8:12. Aaron functions as a prototype of the high priest. According to Keel, the fragrant anointing oil poured over his head trickled right down his long beard. The sacramental anointing was a divine commissioning of this majestic prototype so that he might be Yahweh's mediator at the sanctuary. But I think Hospit and Zenger have some so they note that other exegetes find no problem with Aaron's beard because for them the phrase does not sound in the least clerical. For Ehrlich, for example, it is an expression for an especially beautiful beard. Quote, Zakan Aaron means nothing more than a beard a la Aaron, as we speak today of a beard like that worn by Henry IV of France, a Henry IV, or in English, for example, a Van Dyke. Of course, we have no other examples of this usage, but that at least this type of word construction existed can be seen from the expression ship of ship of Tarshish, compare 1 Kings 10:22, 22:48, Psalms 48:8, which need not refer to ships sailing exclusively to Tarshish, but qualified a ship as fit for the high seas. That's a very interesting, yeah. I mean, it goes in length here, so I won't go into this any further, but I'll do the overview. So, Allen notes that most commentators ever since Gunkel have regarded the psalm as a non-cultic wisdom poem. He notes that Zion in verse 3 has frequently been regarded as a corruption or as a redactional change, and some have deleted the line as a complication of the first simile in comparison with the second, according to Krauss, or on the grounds that historical allusion to Aaron's consecration is out of place in a simile, according to Schmidt. This deletion serves to remove a cultically oriented element in the psalm, and together with the emendation of Tzion, directs the interpretation away from a cultic interpretation. Berlin notes that many scholars view this psalm as a song recited by pilgrims as they approached Mount Zion, or as they partook of a sacrificial meal at the temple. In that scenario, this psalm is sometimes interpreted as literally expressing the pilgrims' pleasure in joining with their countrymen to participate in this festive communal occasion. She notes that others have suggested that it refers to a familial harmony more generally. She, however, interprets the picture of brothers dwelling together in verse 1 as representing idealized the reunification of the northern and southern kingdoms. She notes that the psalm's climax is the Temple Mount, called the Mountains of Zion, the focal point and symbol of the reunited Israel, and the source of divine life-giving blessing. Terrian writes that since the so-called priestly code may have been transmitted orally during the monarchy, the date of Psalms 132 may have been earlier than post-exilic times. Goldingay writes that outside of the pilgrimage context, politically the psalm could encourage harmony and reconciliation between the northern and southern clans during the monarchic period, while in the Persian period it could likewise confront the tensions between Judean and Samarian communities. He writes that in a local context, it could encourage the members of a household to stay together or live in harmony, maybe especially after the death of the head of the household. And Gerstenberger comments, quote, Are we allowed to point to the congregation of Yahweh believers as the place of origin and transmission for Psalms 133? The general justification of answering in the affirmative lies in the fact that the Psalter hardly contains any texts not used in worship assemblies of the post-exilic period. More specific evidence includes the message of the closing line, verse 3 CD, secondary priestly interests patent in verse 2 CD, and the development from profane to more spiritual outlooks, which in reality reflects a process of assimilating the profane into the spiritual. Thus, the psalm was probably composed and used in the communal situation of post-exilic Judaism. This does not preclude the notion, however, that the image of brothers living peacefully together goes back to real family experience. According to ancient Israelite ideals, even married brothers cultivated paternal family inheritance as long as possible. Compare Genesis 13:5 and 6. The present place of Psalms 133 in the collection of Psalms of Ascents is warranted by the concluding lines, the blessings of Yahweh on Zion, the destination of pilgrimages. That's it. Moving on.
So we can move on then. Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
Isaac.
So Isaac. It's 134.
134. A song of ascents. Now bless the Lord, all you servants of the Lord, who stand nightly in the house of the Lord. Lift your hands towards the sanctuary and bless the Lord. May the Lord, maker of heaven and earth, bless you from Zion. That's it.
Wow, 3 verses.
Yes. I mean, these
Lame.
Well, you will be instant karma with like 35 and 36.
Fair enough. The thing is, I really can't think of anything that's super special about this because I mean, yeah, it is super short. Who stand by night in the house of the Lord. They, I mean, the thing is, people were there the whole fucking time, so it's great. It was an important spot for you to be at. The title "Maker of Heaven and Earth" comes up multiple times, and in this one, it's not really doing anything. It's just kind of there. It's not like they're talking. It's not like there's any like reference to creation here, right? Because like sometimes you do get a psalm that does allude to creation specifically, but yeah, it's doing nothing here. So I got nothing.
So I have something. So Psalms 134 is generally divided into a hymnic call of praise, verses 1 and 2, and a priestly benediction, verse 3. Gerstenberger notes that Psalms 134 is a doubled blessing going 2 ways, from the community to Yahweh and from Yahweh on Zion to the community. He suggests calling the psalm a blessing exchange, a 2-way blessing, for that is what it really represents. Berlin notes that various scenarios have been proposed for the parties to the dialogue. Chacham suggested that an unidentified speaker bids the people standing in the temple to bless God. They acknowledge the summons with tacit agreement by their response, "May the Lord bless you." B. Sommer suggested that the speaker is a Levite who calls on the people to bless God in verses 1 and 2. The people's response is not given, but presumably they follow the Levite's instructions. Then in verse 3, the Levite continues with a response to the people, bestowing upon them their own blessing. Zenger and deClaissé-Walford suggest that the congregation is speaking, urging the priests to utter a blessing to the close of worship or at the end of a pilgrimage, as a farewell gesture. The priests do so in verse 3, blessing the people, using a form of the traditional priestly blessing, "The Lord bless you and protect you," in number 624. Terrien writes that Psalms 134 may have concluded a ceremonial feast, the exact meaning of which is now lost. He writes that if the unknown figure addressed in verses 2 and 3 is a king, the date would be pre-exilic, and the poem would have been preserved as the crowning song of ascents during post-exilic times. He writes that as a royal psalm, this might have been sung in the eschatological hope that the anointed one would come as the Messiah at the end of time. And Allen comments, quote, "A cultic setting for the psalm is clear from the twofold reference to the temple and the mention of Zion. A precise reconstruction of a pre-collection setting is hardly possible. Schmidt suggested that verses 1 and 2 may reflect the context of a psalm of thanksgiving sung by an individual who called the community to join in his own praise. Hebel envisioned a night vigil or incubation rite through which a blessing might be mediated. Those who regarded the psalm as an interchange between the congregation and priests often reconstruct the setting as the pilgrim's departure from Zion. At the end of the day or of the whole festival, the people encourage the priests or Levites to continue in praise during the night, compare 1 Chronicles 9:33, and in return receive a final priestly blessing. Alfred envisioned a dialogue between an individual pilgrim addressed in verse 3 and the priests he addressed in verses 1a beta through 2. That's it.
Okay, then. So am I on 135?
Yes.
Looks like it, yeah.
Okay, good.
Now we are heading to a lot of hallelujahs and blessings. I mean, hallelujah will be like in 45 through 50.
All right. 135 says praise for for God's goodness and might, both of which are doubtful.
I mean, that's not the title of the psalm. It's just somebody added that later, but sure.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Praise the Lord.
Hallelujah.
Praise the name of the Lord. Give praise, O servants of the Lord. You who would stand in the house of the Lord, in the courts of the house of our God. Praise the Lord, for the Lord is good. Sing to his name, for he is gracious. For the Lord has chosen Jacob for himself, Israel as his own possession. For I know that the Lord is great. Our Lord is above all gods. Whatever the Lord pleases, he does, in heaven and on earth, in the seas and all deeps. He it is who makes the clouds rise at the end of the earth. There's an end of the earth. He makes lightnings for the rain. Lightnings is plural, as is deep. And brings out the wind from his storehouses. If you want to see him do it, just pull his finger. He it was who struck down the firstborn of Egypt, both humans and animals. He sent signs and wonders into your midst, O Egypt, and against Pharaoh and all his servants. He struck down many nations and killed mighty kings, Sihon, king of the Amorites, and Og, king of Bashan, and all the kingdoms of Canaan, and gave their land as a heritage to his people, Israel. Your name, O Lord, endures forever. Your renown, O Lord, thoughtful all ages, or throughout all ages. For the Lord will vindicate his people and have compassion on his servants. The idols of the nation are silver and gold, the work of human hands. They have mouths, but they do not speak. They have eyes, but they do not see. They have ears, but they do not hear. A nose, but there is no breath in their mouths. Those who make them and all who trust them shall become like them. A house of Israel, bless the Lord. A house of Aaron, bless the Lord. O house of Levi, bless the Lord. You who fear the Lord, bless the Lord. Blessed be in the Lord from Zion, he who resides in Jerusalem. Praise the Lord. And just to remind everybody, a blessing is a magical enchantment that you're going to cast on God.
I mean, the
Where's
phrase
my
here
wand?
is hallelujah.
Abracadabra.
The phrase here is hallelujah. Praise Yahweh. Yes. Praise Yah.
Okay.
There are quite a few interesting things about this one, I think. This appears in a couple of verses here. So in verse 4 and verse 12, we get the same idea that we got in Deuteronomy 32, 8 through 9, where you have God specifically choosing this group of people. So it doesn't even necessarily say that the other gods aren't real or anything. It's just that this is the God of Israel. There are gods of other places, but of course they do attack the idol worship. This is something you're going to see throughout the prophets as well. In fact, the specific phrases you're going to see throughout the prophets, like the work of human hands. They have mouths but don't speak, eyes but don't see, ears but don't hear, all that stuff. That's going to come up a lot. I can't see this as being anything other than post-exilic, because you have a lot of references to, not only the stories in the Torah, but you also have, where was it here? You also have at the end there. Now it's calling out to Israel, but to smaller and smaller groups. You have Israel, and then within that group there's the Aaronids. So, and that would just be the priesthood. But then you have specifically the house of Levi, which is the Levitical priesthood. because there were competing priestly groups. So you kind of have this tier, or these tiers of, I guess, there's a better word for it, but I'm just going to say specialness. But there is a better word for it. I just can't think of it right now.
Technically, Aaron should be within Levi, though, not the other way around.
Oh, sure. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
But it was his house that were the high priests. They got the coolest job. And then they said, no, but God really loves you because he said you're allowed to clean up the inner part. Aren't you special?
It would have made more sense to go like House of Israel, House of Levi, House of Aaron. But that's like a very common thing. Like
I can see
like
that.
Judaism, you kind of almost have like a caste system where you have Israelites, Levites, and priests. The only effect really is like in the synagogue, like when they do like an honor to like be called up to say the blessing for the reading, like the first one goes to a priest, the second one will go to a Levite, and then the rest will be to everyone else.
And I also did want to point out how in verses 5 through 7, I know that Aaron made a note of this, but you have the division that is very common in ancient Near Eastern literature, where you have heaven, earth, and the sea, or sometimes just the underworld. There are different ways to do that, but it takes up the same kind of thing. Although, at this point in time, it has lost all of the cosmological. It hasn't lost all cosmological connotation, but like the thing is, this kind of language would have referred to the division of the universe in Mesopotamia, for example. We see there are multiple inscriptions,
the great powers,
to that, but this would have been, of course, been straight away from it. It's not like specific to that cosmology anymore. But as Arm pointed out in verse 7, he makes the clouds rise at the end of the earth. Ends of the earth is the phrase that's used for like the whole earth. If it said like if it said in like the 4 corners of the earth or something like that, the 4 quadrants of the earth, that would be more like an actual that there's some termination point to the end of it. But the phrase ends of the earth just typically means the whole earth.
Well, and I'm not gonna I'm not gonna whine too much about poetic phrasing when it comes to geography during the Psalms, because again, songs are not about exactly the specifics of that sort of thing. But yeah, I don't know. It's archaic.
The thing is, that entire passage is kind of I'd say archaic is pretty good, right? Because it uses all of the ancient ways they would talk about this stuff, and just kind of, I would say it demythologizes it to a degree, because it takes out the mythology that it would have had initially in Canaan or in Mesopotamia. So like when it says, we have the similar stuff in Job, right? Lightnings for the rain brings out the wind from its storehouses. Like that is still mythologized, but not to the same extent, not in the same way. I'll put it that way. Not in the same way as it was in the past, where they were specifically taking stuff from the religions around them.
Well, and the ancient division of the sky and the underworld and the sea. I mean, very same thing in the Greeks and the Romans with the Zeus and the Poseidon and the Hades. Sky Daddy, Fire Daddy, Sea Daddy. They're the holy threesome. But it's thank you, J.C. Lynn. But the truth of the matter is, like, that ancient division, it's very poetic. Not to say, obviously, that they had a three brothers set up here, but there would have been something similar reflected in Canaanite mythology. And poetically speaking, the triplicate does work better.
Okay, so Psalms 135 is considered a hymn. Allen notes that the overall structure follows a standard pattern, an imperatival call to praise in verses 1 through 3, typically using the verb hallelu, praise, introduces the reason for praise in the form for an introductory summary or series of summaries in verses 3 through 5. This summary is developed into the main declaration of Yahweh's praiseworthiness as creator, verses 6 and 7, and as a controller of history, verses 8 through 12. The hymn is rounded off with a repeated call to praise, verses 19 through 20. Gerstenberger notes that Psalms 135 concentrates on Yahweh's deeds for Israel to the exclusion of any other deities. He notes that the verse 14 corresponds literally to Deuteronomy 32:36, and in both passages the affirmation is an accentuated assertion of trust, hope, and praise in consequence of the preceding extolment. He therefore calls Psalms 136 a hymn to Yahweh alone, apparently in the wake of exilic Deuteronomistic theology. The psalm quotes from other biblical texts.
Are you reading the comments for 136 or 135?
No, I think it's 135. 135, sorry. Let me check real quick. I think it's Psalms 135.
You just wrote it down
both
wrong.
passages. Okay. Yeah. Sorry. Did I write verse 14? Yeah, sorry. It's my fuck up. Sorry. He therefore calls Psalms 135 a hymn. Yes. He therefore calls Psalms 135 a hymn to Yahweh alone, apparently in the wake of exilic Deuteronomistic theology. The psalm quotes from other biblical texts, such as other psalms like 113, 115, 118, 134, and 136, Deuteronomy 7:6, 32:36, Exodus 3:15, 18:11, etc., with an almost verbatim citation of Jeremiah 10:13-14, as apparent in verses 6 and 7. This had led commentators to conclude that this psalm is post-exilic. Berlin adds that elements of late biblical Hebrew testify to a post-exilic date. The particle she, who, that, verses 2, 8, and 10, the ending ki in betochi, against you, Egypt, and the phrase house of our God in verse 2. Zenger writes that the quotations give the psalm its Zitz im Leben. It is a song in praise of the God of the Exodus, in a situation in which those praying the psalm hope that Yahweh will help them to attain their rights, out of compassion and mercy. Terrien suggested that the psalm may have been composed as a viaticum of consolation for the exiles whose faith was shattered. He suggested that the psalmist expresses the very dawn of hope with the successes of Cyrus. And Gerstenberger comments, quote, "The historical situation to be deduced from the psalm's outlook and theological interests is that of a multi-religious society with competing religious and political systems. Israel seems to be struggling to maintain her identity as a Yahweh community. The temple functions, in verse 2, as a sacred place where Yahweh's people adore his name in prayer and commemoration. Compare 1 Kings 8:22-53, Isaiah 56:7, house of prayer, no trace of sacrifices in Psalm 135. Perhaps the reference to the house of our God may be understood as a symbolic reference to the distant Jerusalem center, too. In that case, the psalm could have been recited in the diaspora as well. Prayer services of Jewish congregational assemblies, in any case, are the particular background of Psalm 135. That's it.
All right, so I guess we're moving on to 136.
Anybody continue? Oh, sorry. I think it's...
What?
The only interesting thing about 135 that I noticed, like when Aaron was reading, was that his translation translated af in verse 17 as nose, rather than just, but, or like it says, like it has these idols, they have mouths but cannot speak, they have eyes but cannot see, ears but they cannot listen, and then it just says, according to this translation, just says nose, and there is no air in their mouths or no wind in the mouths. So like the word "uff" there is, yeah, it can be translated either way, but it's kind of weird to translate it as nose, I think.
Is it the breath of life though that it's talking about, the one that God breathed into Adam?
Yeah, the last bit is like, yeah, there's no like ruach, there's no breath in their mouths, but like the word "uff" there is, I think most translate it as and nor is there, like it's giving a list, and then it says "uff," even there is no wind in their mouths, and then his translation translated it as nose, which I think is funny.
I almost read it as the classic joke. They have eyes but cannot see. They have ears but cannot hear. A nose, but they do not smell.
Yeah, that's what you would expect, right? It would say a nose, but a nose. But
no, in fact, they do smell very badly.
Yeah.
Well, and the threat, of course, is that all those who worship them will become like them, which could argue for only the souls of the righteous continuing after death. I don't know.
Thomas, do you have anything about the word "uff" in verse 17?
Verse 17. אוזניים להם ולא יאזינו אף אין ישוח בפיהם. Af, like in the literal sense, I think it refers to nose, right?
Right. So Aaron had a translation that translated it as nose. JPS translates it as nor. Nor is there.
So okay. So there is in Hosfeld and Seger, they write that the model Psalm 115:6b has nose, af, have they, and yet they cannot smell. Our psalm takes up the first word af, nose, and alters it into a particle af, also even.
Oh, okay. So actually, this is based. So there is an older text that does have the af, like, but nose but cannot smell. Interesting. Okay.
All right. So I'll start with 136 then. Damn, this one looks like it sucks. I'm just okay. I'll still read it.
Very repetitive.
Yeah. Oh, give thanks to the Lord, for he is good, for his steadfast love endures forever. Oh, give thanks to the God of gods, for his steadfast love endures forever. Oh, give thanks to the Lord of lords, for his steadfast love endures forever. This won't end. Who alone does great wonders, for his steadfast love endures forever. Who by understanding made the heavens, for his steadfast love endures forever. Who spread out the earth on the waters, for his steadfast love endures forever. Who made the great lights, for his steadfast love endures forever. The sun to rule over the day, for his steadfast love endures forever. Yeah, I know, right?
Clearly, this is call and response. Do you want us to do call and response?
No, I'm still. I would rather not hear this more times than necessary. So,
you could say his love endures forever. That's faster.
Oh my God. The moon and stars to rule over the night, for his steadfast love endures forever. Who struck Egypt through their firstborn, for his steadfast love endures forever. And brought Israel out from among them, for his steadfast love endures forever. With a strong hand and an outstretched arm, for his steadfast love endures forever. Who divided the Red Sea in two, for his steadfast love endures forever. And made Israel pass through the midst of it, for his steadfast love endures forever. But overthrew Pharaoh and his army in the Red Sea, for his steadfast love endures forever. Who led his people through the wilderness, for his steadfast love endures forever. Who made water flow from the rock, for his steadfast love endures forever. Who struck down great kings, for his steadfast love endures forever. And killed famous kings, for his steadfast love endures forever. Sihon, king of the Amorites, for his steadfast love endures forever. And Og, king of Bashan, for his steadfast love endures forever. And gave their land as a heritage, for his steadfast love endures forever. A heritage to his servant Israel, for his steadfast love endures forever. It is he who remembered us in our lowest state, for his steadfast love endures forever, and rescued us from our foes, for his steadfast love endures forever. Who gives food to all flesh, for his steadfast love endures forever. Oh, give thanks to the God of heaven, for his steadfast love endures forever. And I want to die. So.
Yeah, if you
I have flashbacks to the worship song that does exactly this.
Lois, we have a question from Castlepin Regan. Is this the new and it came to pass?
It might be. It might be.
Do I need to make a counter?
This psalm, if you compare it to, was it 2 psalms ago? Was it 134, 133? I don't remember. But it references a lot of the same things, right? The killing of the firstborn, the king of Bashan, the king of the Amorites. Like, it references a lot of the same stuff. So first of, and this also has a more detailed cosmology too, because you do have stuff like who spreads out the earth on the waters, for example. That would be more of this ancient cosmological worldview that's being pushed here. But the addition of "for his steadfast love endures forever," aside from just making me want to put my balls in a meat grinder, it's just, first of all, it's lazy writing. It's fucking lazy. Yes. And it seems like he did just take some of the other stuff from Psalms and just added this phrase. And now, to me, it makes it far, far worse.
Mindless call and response is definitely a thing in worship.
Yeah.
Also, I do have to love how it's all about how God's love endures forever, and it's all about all the people he killed.
Yes, that was going to be one of the things I pointed out.
I had babies, and then I killed these kings, and then I gave them their land to you because I'm so loving. Like, right, yeah. I realize there's context where the head of my enemies might actually be a romantic gift, but I don't think that should be the center of your love and affection.
Yeah, and it's not like it's just following actions as well. Like, if it was just like an action he did and then "for his steadfast love endures forever," that would make a bit more sense. But he even includes it after just names. And Og, king of Bashan, "for his steadfast love endures forever." Because, of course, that's all related to the kings that he struck down. But, like, it's still fucking terrible.
I noticed that there was an extra verse.
Mm-hmm.
Tomer?
What? Sorry.
The Christian Bible has an extra verse.
In what psalm? We're still in 35?
136.
136.
I think it's the let's see. Struck
no.
Firstborn.
No.
It should be about water from a
in
rock.
Verse 16.
Like that.
Yeah, who made, because it does. This one is two different cola, right? So you have, usually they're all one cola, but this one is verse 16 is 2.
Yeah.
So you have who led his people through the wilderness, for his steadfast love endures forever. But then also who made water flow from the rock. So
that's not. And then it has, and then his steadfast love is eternal as well after that one.
Yeah, it also has it there.
So the Hebrew Bible doesn't have 16 is just who led his people through the wilderness. His steadfast love is eternal. Yeah, use the JPS, it's quicker. So Tom, do you have anything about this extra part in the?
No, I only have the overview. I didn't include like this. I mean, there is, but I didn't really write anything about it. Just
it's interesting.
It's an overview.
It looks like it's interesting that it looks like maybe it's like in the Septuagint and was lost in the Masoretic, but it's interesting that the two verses are combined into one, almost to make it like match the Hebrew better.
I mean, there isn't anything from the commentators about it, so.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
No, I don't see anything.
So does the so because of that, I gotta ask, Tomer, whatever version you're looking at, are there 27 verses?
No, it's 26.
26. It's just
still the
that
same amount of verses, but 16 only has one thing. not 2.
16 as wait. Who led his people through the wilderness? His steadfast love is eternal. Who led? That's also from the to him. That's
Wait,
the
do you
same
not
thing.
do you not have the who made water flow from the rock?
Are you reading from like a
no?
special version?
It's 36.
I want to read 137.
Right?
Okay, hold on. That's curious then. Okay, I am pulling up. I'm just checking the Septuagint here. Let's see, verse.
Lilith and Aaron.
Oh, I see. What we? Oh, okay. I see. So there is a version of the Septuagint
it is longer
which has
in the Septuagint,
that it includes him who brought water out of a sharp rock, but none of the commentaries mention this. I mean, maybe it's like an addition in a specific manuscript.
So. Let me actually check. My Septuagint probably actually says where it is. So let me just grab it here.
Lilith, in your version, does verse 16 have like 2 stanzas or just 1?
Just one. To him who led his people through the desert, his love endures forever. But this one's an NIV, so I mean it's not exactly peak. But yeah, it does have one.
Using like a study Bible or something that has like an alternative version. Or
yeah,
like...
hold on, I'm checking it here.
Could be. He would do that. He would be
16.
Increasing all our suffering. But I want to read Psalm 137.
Okay. I mean, unless someone else has some commentary on this.
Yes, I do have on 36. So, yeah, okay. So Psalms 136 is generally taken as a hymn. Allen calls Psalms 136 an imperatival antiphonal hymn, in which the first column of each line was evidently sung by a temple soloist or choir as a call to praise, and the second by the congregation as a response. Gerstenberger called Psalms 136 a communal thanksgiving liturgy. Zenger writes that the psalm is an imperative hymn that, on the one hand, reveals the classic sequence of a thanksgiving, but on the other hand, offers a continuous repetition of the same responsory from beginning to end. He writes that this double structure, because of which the psalm is also characterized as a litany-type hymn or an antiphonal hymn, points to its original use as an antiphonal song in worship, though it is still open whether the psalm was created for a very particular festival. Krauss suggested that the psalm's selection of historical material indicates its composition for the Passover. In favor of this theory is the existence of such a usage in Jewish tradition. As the Great Hallel, it has been sung at morning services of the Sabbath and Passover. Allen, however, notes that Schmidt and Weiser discerned in verse 25 a climactic allusion to the harvest festival celebrated in the autumn. He takes the psalm to be post-exilic. Gerstenberger writes that we're hardly able to pinpoint the Passover celebrations as the exclusive setting, because remembrance of the Exodus and the killing of the firstborn may have been considered appropriate also at other assemblies and worships of the year, especially in a thematic cluster of the type of Psalms 136. Therefore, he suggested that we should think of regular services of parishioners who wanted to express their general gratitude to the benign overlord Yahweh, who granted land, security, and help to his followers. Zenger notes the following observations regarding the dating of the final form of Psalms 136. 1. Since the Pentateuch is presupposed, then 400 BCE is the terminus post quiem. 2. The divine predicate, God of heaven, in verse 26, is more broadly attested in the Persian period. 3. Even though the historical background of verses 23 and 24 is indeterminate in the text itself, it could be an allusion to the end of the exile and the reestablishment of Israel on the international stage.
Okay, Lilith? Or are you done?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
What?
Yes.
Now, come now. Are you telling me you've never heard By the Waters of Babylon?
No.
Not that version.
Okay,
No.
well, that actually, to move to Italian history, one of my favorite operatic composers used Psalm 137 to subtly object to the control of his people by German forces. They weren't allowed to complain about it, but using biblical stories, you can complain about it. So it became a song for independence. And it was, as I say, based on Psalm 137. But Psalm 137 is a song of, well, the exile, and includes, the weeping of the people that they can no longer worship God in their temple as they should. By the rivers of Babylon we sat and wept when we remembered Zion. There on the poplars we hung our harps, for there our captors asked us for songs. Our tormentors demanded songs of joy. They said, "Sing us one of the songs of Zion." How can we sing the songs of the Lord while in a foreign land? If I forget you, O Jerusalem, may my right hand forget its skill. May my tongue cling to the roof of my mouth if I do not remember you, if I do not consider Jerusalem, my highest joy. Remember, O Lord, what the Eerdmans did on the day Jerusalem fell. Tear it down, they cried, tear it down to its foundations. O daughter of Babylon, doomed to destruction, happy is he who repays you for what you have done to us, he who seizes your infants and dashes them against the rocks.
I'm so happy.
Yeah.
Yes.
Classic biblical literature.
I can get all of it up until the Smashing Babies. I think Smashing Babies is not really the way to go. But interestingly, it does have a little taste of that older theology where gods were localized deities, and there's no point singing their praises somewhere far from where they live because they're not going to hear you and it has no power.
Why would you praise the extra cosmic deity of all space and time when you're outside of Jerusalem?
Well, I mean, that's just the thing. God is a very special little snowflake, and he can only be worshipped in provincial, his special area.
Well, yeah. I think the idea here is that, like, what is there to really be happy about when we're exiled to another land?
Yeah, but they do. It's specifically the songs, they asked us for songs, but how can we sing the songs of Yahweh in a foreign land? It's like that idea that the praise has power and magic only in the air under the auspices of that God and whatever it controls or what have you. Remember in when it's like, must we not take the land our God Yahweh has given us, and you should take the land that your God Chemosh has given you, which is obviously very courtly, polite language, and people have always struggled with that a little bit and declared this king evil. But that was the way of it, was, this God has conquered the God of this area, so he has power here now, and we've got to go with it, kind of.
I did. There is a comment by Gerstenberger which I really, really liked. So, yes, actually, I have it on the commentary itself, but I will keep it for that. I wrote an extensive commentary on the 137 because it is one of the more important psalms in my opinion. It should be noted that, like, the "If I Forget You, O Jerusalem" section, verses 5 and 6 is said a lot in, like, Jewish weddings. Right, Isaac? Like,
there's a lot of songs based on.
Yeah, but like this is one of the well-known.
I'm sorry, you're saying this one is sung at Jewish weddings?
Only verses 5 and 6.
Well,
like,
what better way?
The husband has to say it.
Thing.
No, it's not a wedding song. The husband has to say it on the, like, canopy, I think.
Canopy.
Yeah.
Canopy.
Well,
if I forget Jerusalem, I'll be cursed.
Yeah.
What better way to start your life together than by calling down curses on yourself if you forget a war-torn city?
Yeah, so Berlin notes, at traditional Jewish weddings, this verse is recited at the end of the ceremony when the groom breaks a glass, signifying that even on the happiest day of one's life, one must remember the sadness of the destruction of Jerusalem.
And if you want a happy marriage...
Which is what the glass represents as well, no?
Yes, the glass represents like the destruction of Jerusalem.
The
glass
whole
represents
thing about
Jerusalem.
like not
Yes.
forgetting the destruction of the temple and stuff. Like people have, some people have a tradition of like
It's
inside
very
their house
it's very
to have, like,
strange though.
one brick showing. Or
It's
something
very
like that.
strange. For me at least it's very strange because
I was told it was
the act,
about
you break
lightning.
always the act of breaking the glass is always followed by cheerfulness. Like the symbolism is like it's sad, but then you're being joyful. So like,
Yay! The temple is destroyed. Yay!
yes,
Yay!
exactly.
Let's be happy. Let's have a happy marriage. Let's dash babies on the rocks.
Hey,
Yeah,
that is how you have a happy marriage. I'm not saying do it, but
what you do is you get both feet in between these fingers like this. You hold them together and go whack.
Yes.
Oh
so,
my god.
Yeah. So like I
Yeah.
didn't have an overview of this song because I couldn't even bother. Yeah, so I should note something from, I think it's Sanger who wrote the commentary on this. Yeah. So he notes that unlike the popular Psalms of Lament and the Book of Lamentations, where we already find a theological argument about the causes and meaning of the catastrophe of 587, which seems to indicate a distance in time from the events, there are no such reflections in Psalms 137. And for that reason, some authors located in time very soon after the destruction of Jerusalem and explain it as a first reaction in the shadow of trauma, quote unquote, according to, Other authors interpret the psalm as a typical reflection of the exilic situation, whether as an expression of resistance or as a document of religious depression. Representative of this position is, for example, the following judgment by Rainer Alberts, quote, "The psychic distress is attested by the exilic song Psalm 137. We find here a sorrowful homesickness for Jerusalem that, however, was in danger of rapidly fading and therefore had to be kept alive through self-adjurations not to forget Jerusalem. Again, there was a dull feeling of powerlessness and inability to alter anything in the world political conditions that is unloaded in wild hopes for vengeance against the conquering Babylonian power and their Edomite allies who profited from it." End quote. In opposition to this contemporary dating of Psalm 137, quite recently, there have been an increasing number of voices who interpret Psalm 137 as having been created in Jerusalem, as a look back to the exile and a post-exilic reflection on it. The strong emphasis on temple music and the Songs of Zion suggests the Asaphite group of temple singers must be considered authors. This is more plausible on the whole. Okay. So before I start, I think
Plausibility is always an interesting measuring stick.
I guess. Okay, so I'll start with the commentary. So on verse 1, by the rivers of Babylon, in Hebrew, Naharot Bavel. Although Nahar means river, here it most likely refers to the Euphrates Canal system, characteristic of the city of Babylon. Berlin notes that we know from documents found in Babylonia that the exiled Jews were settled along the Euphrates River, from where many irrigation canals drew water. Ezekiel 1:1 and 3:15 note that the Judean exiles lived near the Heber Canal. The canals formed a network throughout Babylonia and are emblematic of that country. On that same verse, we sat and wept when we remembered Zion. Berlin notes that some scholars understood this passage as an actual practice and proposed that a formal ritual of mourning was conducted near water in Babylonia, based on the association with water, along with fasting, that accompanies a ceremony of confession and repentance in 1 Samuel 7:6 and Ezra 8:21. Thus, Krauss notes Ewald's opinion that the exiled Jews gathered at the streams of the canals to reminisce about the destruction of Jerusalem, and called it, quote, "the simplest and most acceptable view," end quote. He argues that the water in the foreign land, in verse 4, will have served both lamentation rites and cultic washing. Berlin, however, writes that this view is no longer widely held. She writes that there is no evidence that the exiles in Babylonia commemorated the temple's destruction, and ceremonial mourning for the temple more likely took place at the site of the destroyed temple, as seen in Jeremiah 41:5 and Zechariah 7 and 8.
You done?
I do see a comment though, if you want to read it.
Okay, so I'll be happy to jump into the comments. So Ann Stevens, 9631, sent 5 RN Raw gift memberships. Thank you very much. Elira the Free, number 3.
Woo!
I don't know where the number 3 came from.
I love Elira.
Yep. Says, I want to thank the panel, for I had not read Psalms before. It would have been so boring without you reading them.
It was so boring when we started the Psalms on my channel that we started another show on my channel where we were reading
just have something
works.
to do.
Yeah, because we spent half a year in Psalms. So for that time, we wanted to read something interesting. So we read like First Enoch, a whole bunch of apocalypses. Like it was fun stuff. But yeah, it initially started because the Psalms were so fucking boring.
Yeah, make the fucking Psalms stop. Yeah. No, they are. And that's the thing. I try and make my snark at least somewhat informed or informative. It can actually be scholarly based, but half of it is just I have to make this endurable.
And then Kinetic .44, which I guess means 44 Magnum, not sure, says the Hebrew word Esher.
Ashrei. Esher, yes.
Well, Esher.
Yeah, Asher, but like
the word the
Esher,
hero is
Asher.
Esher.
Yes.
Yeah.
Esher, yes.
Okay, so I have the Hebrew speakers arguing about the pronunciation.
It's more what was written. He didn't the word in the verse is Ashrei, which is, and Esher is
no, but the derivative is Esher or Ashar,
which is
Okay, translated as happy in 137.9 actually means blessed. Happy is a bad translation. Esher is an exclamation of ultimate, God-given flourishing.
Yep. JPS translates it as a blessing on him who seizes your babies and dashes them against the rocks.
How would you translate that as a Hebrew speaker?
I mean, because
it's not very
I'm talking from a modern Hebrew perspective, because Osher and to Aleph Shin Resh is to mean happy, but in a biblical context it means blessing. And Berlin notes that the term is never used of God. So first she notes that this means to be fortunate, happy, or in a favorable condition, and is a way of declaring strong approval. The term is never used of God. One does not declare God to be in a state of approval. The speaker, therefore, is not calling on God to destroy Babylonia. If a human agent of overthrow is implied, perhaps it is the Persian Empire or its king Cyrus, who was held in high esteem in the Bible. Compare Lamentations 3:64, where God is the agent. Quote, "Give them, O Lord, their deserts."
Their desserts.
Desserts. Yeah, just reading like this.
A word we only use in that sentence.
Just deserts for desert deserters, according to their deeds. Alternatively, the sense is impersonal, approving the fall of the enemy without specifying an agent.
Okay.
Yes. And another comment.
Yes, Danger Man 1973 offers $1.99. It says, guys, I have a religious trauma panic attack.
Oh, fuck. Deep breath. Deep breath.
Be happy to talk to you about that at some other point. I can't do it right now. I mean, like real-time talk.
They can't get you. I know it feels like they're always in your head because they taught you to think that someone's always watching your thoughts, and it's incredibly fucked, and it spurs anxiety even when you obviously know that's not true anymore. You will not let them win.
Okay, on verse 2, Krauss argued that verse 2 depicts a specific act of the common rite of lamentation. The lyres which were tuned to joyful praise fall silent and hang in the poplar trees that grow on the banks of the watercourses. He argues that the conception in the background is that objects too can mourn. Zenger notes that if you read the quotation incorporated in verse 3 in the context of verse 2, then the musicians addressed have symbolized their violently caused alienation from the Jerusalem temple liturgy and music by hanging their temple instruments on the poplars at the center of Babylon, either as a sign of their sorrow, which permitted no festal music of the lyre, or as a protest against their deportation, or as a demonstration of the contradictory nature of their situation. On verse 4, Zenger comments, quote, "The unique expression al admat nechal," wait, is it al admat nechal? Al admat nechal, sorry. Yeah, nechal, on foreign soil, does not simply mean foreign in contrast to native. The psalm certainly does not mean to deny that one could also sing Yahweh songs in the diaspora. Since the noun nechar is used primarily in religious and cultic contexts and emphasizes a contrast to Yahweh, the connotation here seems also to be that Babylon is not merely a foreign place, but also the soil of the foreign gods. Crucial here is that, according to the accepted religious model, the conquest of Jerusalem with the destruction of the temple of Yahweh was also, or rather primarily, a religiously relevant action, namely the victory of Marduk, the primary god of Babylon, over Yahweh, the god of Jerusalem. A Yahweh song, sung by the conquered and deported Yahweh musicians for the entertainment of the adherents of Marduk in the midst of Babylon, was simply impossible, especially if the deportees wanted to hold fast to their faith in Yahweh and remain true to their memory of Zion. For them, all that remained, as verse 1 unmistakably says, was a mourning remembrance, as a way of holding fast to Zion, to Yahweh, and as resistance to degradation and alienation. With this form of remembering, they constituted their identity, quote, at the center of Babylon, end quote, in verse 2. Oh, and I should note Targum here, which reads, "At once the Levites cut off their thumbs with their teeth, and said, 'How shall we sing the song of the Lord in a foreign land?'"
Oh my God!
Yes.
Guys!
Because you can't sing
Just
without.
snap the harp strings. You can buy more later or make them.
And-
Don't bite
No,
off
they
your
took their
thumbs.
harps. What else are they supposed to do other than bite off their thumbs?
I think Rashi explains that it doesn't say how. It doesn't say we're not going to. We say, how are we going to? We don't have thumbs.
Because
How are we going to do it? We
What's
can't
that,
do
your
it.
tooth?
I
Oh,
don't
it's
see
actually
that,
an addition. No, it's actually an addition to Rashi. Sorry.
Oh my God. Okay.
Yeah, but there's no.
I never
No,
heard
it's
that
in my
particular fan
my
theory,
Code
but
Gelot.
I never heard that
Um,
particular fan theory, but Jesus Christ, please do not bite off your thumbs just because life is kind of fucked at the moment, okay? This is not the correct response. No bueno.
Yeah, this is also found in a Midrash Psalms 137:5. Quote, "So all the Levites stood up and with great self-command put their thumbs into their mouths and mangled them." So yeah. On verses 5 and 6, these verses describe an oath formula containing a self-curse for the singer if he ever forgets Jerusalem, essentially losing his ability to be a temple singer, according to Ibn Ezra, Kimchi, and Hameiri. Berlin notes that Rendsburg suggest that these symptoms describe a stroke in the left side of the brain. Interesting. She notes that the curse has a measure for measure dimension. Let the right hand that is raised to take the oath wither if the oath is not kept, and let the mouth that swore the oath be silenced if the oath is not kept. And Gerstenberger asks, quote, "What did it mean at the time of our psalm was first recited? Do we have to deal with a private emotion, a political statement, or a religious confession to keep spiritually and perhaps physically close to God's holy place?" End quote. He writes, quote, "Post-exilic evidence suggests that the city has become preeminent in the minds of deported Jews. Compare Nehemiah 1:3-4 and 2:3, and the Nehemiah memoirs, Nehemiah 1-7, witness to the zeal for the city's reconstruction in the face of many difficulties. Also, Lamentations testifies to the shock of seeing Jerusalem and Zion destroyed and humiliated. Within the Psalter, the Zion hymns are strong evidence of a living faith in the presence of God on that sacred mount, which probably has pre-Israelite roots. Compare Isaiah 24-27, 29, 36-37, 60-62, etc. We may conclude from all these assorted texts that Jerusalem, after having been a Jebusite holy site for some centuries and the capital of the Davidic dynasty for about 400 years, became the holy city and a highly important symbol of Jewish identity in exilic or post-exilic times. Granted that this may be the basis to start from, we also are able to deduce that verses 5 and 6 cannot represent merely private sentiments of a chance suppliant. Comparable to the desire to go on a pilgrimage to Jerusalem and the house of Yahweh, compare Psalms 84, 87, and 132, the oath of allegiance to the holy city must have some communitarian and confessional implications. The individual speaking in verses 5 and 6, after all, is a member of the Yahweh community, though Yahweh's name does not appear in our passage. And according to Targum, the voice of the Holy Spirit said the oath. Yes.
The voice of the Holy Spirit. Okay, well, that's right. Okay.
I mean, Rashi says that this is the synagogue of Israel saying this.
Congregation.
We have a comment from Truth Over Faith 67 says, is interreligious slavery a possible explanation for the existence of the 40,000 plus denominations of Christianity, i.e. slaves making their own sect/rules, etc.? I think the problem is the personal God thing. Everybody thinks God is talking to them, and he's telling them something different than what he tells everyone else.
Yeah, everyone thinks they have the right version. Like, you could attribute like some of them to
a handful,
slavery,
definitely.
But the thing is, like, they have been splitting from day one.
Yes.
That's the thing. Like,
from Peter and Paul.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
How many versions of Christianity did we already have by the time Christianity was like a thing? I mean, there was a time when it was like one thing, but it was already several things before that.
Well, right, because the thing is, in the very earliest days, they still would have considered themselves Jewish. So the, I mean, yeah, it's from literally from day one. Yeah, you have Pauline Christianity, Petrine Christianity, Johannine Christianity, and then in just like a few decades, you have the Monophysites, and then later like the Miaphysites, and like all these sects just start popping up everywhere because everyone has some slight disagreement with somebody else.
It's actually also a really concerning but important to notice trend, particularly in Protestant Christianity, because I tend to think that on average, the slavery happened more after the schisms, because what's a better reason to oppress and terrorize someone than that they believe that Russell's teapot is a slightly different color of paisley. But really, you get this attitude with all these schisms, but part of it is also in the Protestant thinking. There's this going back to the beginning, the original simplicity of the faith thing. This has popped up in all the Abrahamic religions and maybe in all religions to some degree, but the Christians have really been riding this bitch out. And the sheer number of Protestant denominations, I was explaining how my parents, when they were young and hyper evangelical, went to a Pentecostal church and pulled me aside and explained as a child that the Pentecostals believed that unless you spoke in tongues, the gibberish kind with the screaming and the yelling and the falling over, that you were not really baptized in the Holy Spirit and therefore not really saved, but that wasn't true. And that I shouldn't worry about that, which I do appreciate them telling me that. But like, that's the kind of thing where you get the just, oh God, the number.
How do you know that's not really true? And how can you say things when you're in somebody else's church?
Well, the Bible does say that the spiritual gifts are diverse and you're not expected to have all of them all the time, which is good. But yeah, it's a whole thing. The distinctions that Christians have, I mean, Calvin burned Servetus at the stake, because Calvin believed that Jesus was the immortal Son of God, and Servetus believed that he was the son of the immortal God.
Shut Up Man offers £10 and says C of E teachings were persuasive through what is that?
Primary and secondary.
First year, second year.
Primary and secondary education.
Oh, sorry.
And scouts. They're talking about Boy Scouts or something. I'm not sure. Yet the godly thoughts and habits fall away from me like Forrest Gump's leg braces during later life. So now I'm here. Praise Sagan.
The Boy Scouts was often explicitly Christian in a way that the Girl Scouts was not. Girl Scouts are about the cookies, and we love them for it.
I mean, when he's offering in pounds, and he's talking about the Church of England, and when I had to learn how to say primary and secondary, because that's not a thing Americans write with that, that abbreviation.
Yeah, I've never seen that
Scouts.
before.
I thought the Scouts was just an American propaganda thing.
There is the Scouts Association. It's not Boy Scouts and Girl Guides. It's just the Scouts, and you've got like the Fleur de Lis logo. So I think it was started by an American, but it's a bit different.
Yeah, what would be the point of going? What would be the point in going camping in England? There aren't even any bears.
Yeah, not American. Yeah, bad and bad.
But there are fairies, and you mustn't be rude to them.
Okay. Are we done with that one?
No, I have 3 more commentaries.
Okay.
So on 7, Krauss, citing Gunkel, writes, quote, "It is significant that the curse against Edom is here inserted, actually contrary to the context, and even precedes that against the Babylon," end quote. Allen writes that at first sight, the mention of Edom looks intrusive. However, as Friedman showed, it is of a piece with other 6th century BCE literature. Berlin writes that while the historical role of Edom during the last days of Judah is unclear, many biblical passages blame Edom for aiding the Babylonians, perhaps because Edom is equated with Esau, the traditional opponent of Jacob/Israel, as we see in Lamentations 4:21 and 22, Jeremiah 49:7-22, Ezekiel 25:12, and Obadiah. Terrian writes that Nebuchadnezzar employed Edomite mercenaries who encouraged the total annihilation of Israel's holy place. Gerstenberger, however, writes that the sacking of Jerusalem by the Edomites is unknown. Speculations are that the Edomite onslaught occurred in connection with the Babylonian Wars at the beginning of the 6th century BCE. Ibn Ezra notes that some, in Midrash Psalms 121:3 and Hameiri, interpreted this verse as a prophecy about the Roman exile by Titus, but he writes that this is not the case, because the psalmist afterwards mentions the daughter of Babylon. He also argues that Titus was not of the seed of Edom, quote, "for there is positive proof that the Romans were Greeks," end quote.
What do you mean that the Romans were Greeks? I mean, yeah, they stole a lot of their mythology terminology.
They love that shit. Because
the Romans aren't mentioned in the Table of Nations, so they have to be.
Oh, okay. So the Bible didn't mention it, but of course they did. So shut up. It means the other thing. Okay.
Yeah, they love to view themselves as an extension of the Hellenistic world. So the thing is, a lot of our current statues that we have, a lot of our current Greek statues, are Roman replications of Greek statues that have been destroyed. A lot of the literature from Rome is also directly based on Greek stuff.
Greek.
So if you read the Aeneid or something, there's so many references to the Iliad and the Odyssey. They took that over entirely because they loved Greek stuff. They took their gods and gave them different names. Although, to be clear, they could have already been named gods before, but they just associated. It was syncretized essentially. But the
Greeks started that. The syncretized.
I mean, no, that was even That was before the Greeks too. Syncretism.
They made
all the
their whole personality. It's not that it had never existed before, but they made it their whole personality when dealing with the gods of other nations. But yeah, it's kind of funny just thinking of the Romans speaking Greek to sound sophisticated and the French speaking Latin to sound sophisticated, and at one point the English speaking French to sound sophisticated. It's just really funny. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt Lawrence.
And I also like to note that the Targum takes the verse. So Michael, the Prince of Jerusalem, is saying verse 7, and Gabriel, the Prince of Zion, says, Gabriel, the Prince of Zion, said to the Babylonian nation, the plunderer, in verse 8.
I'm guessing by prince they mean as in like
verse
angel.
8 and 7. Yeah, I mean, yes, but it's like it's prince.
Like the angel, like the guardian angel of the nation sort of thing.
Let me just check real quick.
I'm sure Gabriel
no, it's no, Ribhon in Aramaic. Michael Ribhon de Israel.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. On 8, daughter Babylon. The Masoretic text reads Bat Bavel. Ellen notes that the personification of cities and countries with daughter is a phenomenon found especially in prophetic literature. He notes, however, that Ogden took it as referring to Edom, claiming that Selah, rocks, in verse 9, is an implicit play on the rocky heights of Edom. Earlier, Kellerman related the term to the Edomite city Selah, but adopted P. Juon's emendation, Bat Edom, daughter Lady Edom. Zenger, however, writes that interpreting Edom as the daughter of Babylon is no more likely than the hypothesis that the reference to Babylon in verse 8 is a secondary insertion. He writes, quote, if we follow the Masoretic text in verse 8a, the participle shedudah, given as an attribute to you, daughter of Babylon, and best translated as a gerund, or gerund, gerund? Yeah, it's gerund. Gerund, yeah. The one condemned to devastation, or who must or shall be devastated, or else future who will be devastated, signals that the devastation called down on Jerusalem by the Edomites ought now to be reversed, according to the legal principle of talion, onto Babylon itself. Since the psalm, like Jeremiah 50 and 51, thinks of the complete destruction of daughter Babylon, this statement is not a clue to a historical dating of the psalm, or of verses 7 through 9, either with regard to the capture by Cyrus II, 539 BCE, or to the putting down of revolts under Darius I in 522, or under Xerxes I in 584 or 582, or to the capture by Alexander the Great in 331, so that the psalm would have to be dated before one of these events. Authors who read the participle as a perfect are inclined to locate the psalm after one of the events. If, as we suppose, verses 7 through 9 are reductional, daughter Babylon is in any case a real metaphor for the world in the Bible. No matter how bestial were the sackings of the Edomites, this wish for the annihilation of children is a deplorable example of deep-rooted ethnic hatred, as shocking as those massacres among antagonistic cultural and religious groups we have to witness in our day. End quote. Berlin writes that in the ancient view, children, and all civilians, were expected to be victims of war, as in 2 Kings 8:12. She writes that the dashing of children is a graphic war motif that occurs also in Isaiah 13:16, Hosea 14:1, Nehemiah 3:10, and is found also in Homer's Iliad 22:73-76. Zenger writes that the element children is chosen here for two reasons. On the one hand, this element corresponds to the address daughter Babylon in the sense that she is the mother of these children. On the other hand, this evokes the royal house in Babylon, whose continuation is to be thwarted through the death of the children of daughter Babylon. That the aim of making daughter Babylon childless is to put an end to its royal rule as a central perspective also of the Babylon poem in Isaiah 47:1-15. Ibn Ezra, however, wrote that the verse speaks of the Babylonians' cruelty. He writes that the psalmist says that they dashed the little ones of Israel.
It's important to note that they did the bad thing first, so now we're going to do the bad thing, or at least wish for the bad thing. And babies, dude, what the fuck? Anyway.
Oh, and I also have a final comment on the rocks. In Hebrew, Hasela, several commentators note that rocks, Sela, sometimes alludes to Edom, as in Jeremiah 49:16 and Obadiah 3, or to Sela as an Edomite city in 2 Kings 14:7. According to 2 Chronicles 25:12, 10,000 Edomites were captured by the Judeans and brought to the top of Sela, and were thrown down from there. Berlin notes Zakovich's opinion that Psalms 137:7-9 is the source for 2 Chronicles 25:12. If so, the Chronicles passage has avoided the distinctive verb napats of our verse and employed a verb used in 2 Kings 8:12 for ripping open pregnant women. She adds that the verse may intend a wordplay equating the name of the fortress with the means of destruction. The protecting rock fortress that exemplifies Edom will be the instrument for their own punishment. Okay, that's it.
Still incredibly fucked.
Yeah.
That doesn't, yeah. I love how much more fucked the context makes everything.
Yeah. That's why I like context so much.
No. It's much worse than that. Come on.
So are we moving to 138?
I think we should call it for today. I need to have a real meal.
Oh, you ever have a real meal in America? You all have TV dinner for dinner, right? Is that something that you do?
Yeah, I have TV dinners all the time. Yeah, I'm still stuck in the 50s, so.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I want to let everybody know I just uploaded another phylogeny video.
Yay!
This is on the evolution of sauropod dinosaurs, specifically sauropods alone. And in this one, I describe a little bit more than in most. The evidence for evolution, transitional species, intermediaries, a bunch of different things about how evolution works and what evolution really is. So if you'd like, you can share this video with your creationists that you argue with everywhere, and just let them know this is what evolution actually is. Here's a bucket of the evidence for it. Enjoy, and see if you can get creationists to argue the content of the video, because I'm betting you never will. They will only bring up something they misread from some article about protozoans or something completely unrelated to what the video is talking about.
Question, Arn.
Yes.
Maybe you have, and I just don't remember it. In your videos, have you ever brought up ERVs as evidence for evolution?
I have, but not in the phylogenies. I mean, well, in human phylogeny I did, because I often cite a molecular phylogeny of living primates, and that shows a number of genetic markers. There's a slight reference to ERVs in that one, but I bring up a lot of the genetic links in some videos.
In fairness,
only when
you're
we're
dealing with creationists, they don't actually know what ERVs are either.
Right. Yeah. They don't.
Well, it came up. I brought it up also in cats when I was talking about the evolution of cats, because that's relevant there, like with cheetahs in particular. But anyway, yeah. And anybody else have anything else to say?
Yeah, definitely. Make sure you join the Behold Discord. It is the best Discord there is, the only one that there is actually. Any other Discords are false Discords. This is the true Discord. So make sure.
This is the one true Discord.
Yeah.
Yes.
This is where all of us are, except for Arn and Lilith.
Well, no. We'll all get together, and then we'll find the heretic Discords, and we will oppose them to the fullest extent of the law.
That's funny, because I just joined recently 2 heretic Discords.
Lawrence, I'll have you know,
one
like
is called
Arn, I am technically there.
Right, technically. Yeah.
Technically.
The best kind there.
Yeah, the best kind of there.
The best kind of there.
I see that. I get that reference.
Yeah.
I know, I'm terrible.
Oh, I would like the video that just made. I want it to be shared with like Cindy Lincoln and Mr. Intelligent Design and even the convicted felon cunt. Let's see if any of them can comment on the content. Betting none of them.
Hunt has never answered a question honestly in his entire life.
Mr. ID is
Mr. ID. Arn, that was the first debate I moderated, you versus Mr. ID, because Jackson Wheat was too scared to do that on its own.
It's mind-blowing how someone like him can exist, honestly.
So
like, how does he tie his shoes?
It is one of my favorite debates because during his opening statement, Arn on camera started cleaning his room. That was
okay.
See,
well, you had to have something interesting to pay attention to. It certainly wasn't going to be the same bullshit tripe that creationists have been trotting out for 100 years.
I liked that debate because I got Mr. ID to admit unwittingly that he accepted evolution. He just doesn't know what it is.
Yeah.
But he wouldn't admit that he doesn't know what it is.
They think a dog gave birth to a cat and a tree gave birth to a human, and that's what happened.
And a clod of mud gave birth to a man, and a man gave birth to a woman, but that was by C-section, so it's okay.
He wanted to bring up something that science hadn't explained, something about proteins in a protoplasm. So he's taking it back to abiogenesis because he thinks life from dirt is what evolution is.
Yeah, at least it's both biology. He's at least in the broader segment of, you get Kant, he's talking about how, astronomy and the beginning of the universe and chemosynthesis is like, that's all forms of evolution. At least abiogenesis is like adjacent.
And Cindy Lincoln was in the exact same condition. She's in a debate, a formal debate on video, not having the first fucking clue what evolution is. Nothing at all. No. Life magically coming from dirt is what she thinks it is. No, and so when I start explaining what evolution really is in the debate, she begged me not to talk about that anymore. She doesn't want to talk about evolution in a debate on evolution.
Yeah. We have to stop pretending that people are engaged in honest, good faith debates. The evidence is in, it does not warrant that. There are a handful of people who will engage in good faith debates.
Yeah,
very few of them are big on YouTube. Yeah, very few of them are on YouTube, and none of them are big. If a person insists they want to debate, I'm just going to suggest that you do one thing to see if they are even kind of honest. You ask, what would change your mind? If they have to think about it, that's one thing. But if they say nothing will change my mind, you're not having a conversation. You're just talking to a wall who wants to verbally masturbate their whatever their favorite creationist was and just vomit it all over you. They're not there as actual
pretty much exactly. I'm always looking for a good faith. There's somebody out there. I know that you can beat people on the street who believe crazy, what I know to be crazy, ridiculous things, but they don't know that. They think that it's legitimate. They think that it's substantiated. So they think that they're in a safe position. And if we explore this, if the truth matters, because the truth actually does matter to some people. And when you find out that what you believe is not true, hey, honest people will stop believing it. But I don't ever find believers online anymore. I don't even find believers online anymore. All I argue with lately, for the most part, have been AI bots. And it's pretty quick to identify why am I wasting time? This is an AI bot. Yeah.
If you're still on Facebook and Twitter, you're gonna come across those more than not, I guess.
Yeah, go to Blue Sky.
Don't
touch.
Yeah, ever since Twitter went full Nazi, I just haven't been on there.
No.
Yeah, I haven't.
No,
I've
fully
clicked on.
moved to
I
Blue
clicked
Sky.
on a link. I needed an illustration, and the illustration that I wanted clicked over to was linked to a Twitter post. So I was on Twitter again for the first time in weeks, and there was hundreds of replies to like me. I'm like, not even gonna bother with this. Got the illustration I was looking for and left. Anyway,
I get it.
All right, we're done.
Anyway,
everybody, we're good next week, I think, right?
I believe so. Yes.
Yeah.
Let's
All right, so
check.
we're going to be doing 138 next week.
138. Yes.
Okay. Gotcha.
I think I can manage. Yes.
All right. Thank you much. Good night.
Sounds good.
Bye, everybody.